What's poppin', my peeps? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host that kinda wants to get an electric bike. Those things look pretty fun. Zach, and today's subreddit is r/stories about Kevin. Okay, so last time on Stories About Kevin, we read this story called My Boss's Stepson is a Kevin to End All Kevins. Today, we are reading My Boss's Stepson is a Kevin to End All Kevins, Part 2. Without spoilers this time. Yeah, I'm looking at you, The Last of Us. I'm back with more stories of the now 16-year-old Uber Kevin. I've been at this job for close to 2 years now, and not a week goes by where I don't hear stories from Bob, my boss, Kevin's stepdad, or Anne, Kevin's mom. To be honest, I don't know why they share these things with me, because it's really none of my business, but I'm not about to stop them because it's truly fascinating what Kevin manages to accomplish. I still get the occasional message about him from various Redditors here, so I'll address the 3 most popular points first. He's still not driving, nor will he be anytime soon. His parents decided that putting him behind the wheel of a 2-ton machine could end with them accused of war crimes, so they told him he wasn't allowed to take a driving test until he gets his grades up. We're safe for the foreseeable future. He apparently lost interest in the erotic orc fiction with swords that he was writing. He's writing a new book now that involves a shape-changing weapon and the apocalyptic wrath of God. That's all I know, and I'm not volunteering to beta read this one. His parents have had him tested for autism and various other things, and so far, it's all come back negative other than mild ADHD. He's on medication for it. Whether he actually takes those meds is up for debate. I'm sticking with my initial analysis of borderline malicious laziness and a stunning lack of common sense. Given that he's not driving anytime soon, he's been using his bicycle as his primary means of transportation, and that's going about as well as you'd expect. He was riding his bike through town, and he went into a store, came back out, and saw that his bike had been stolen. His mom had to come pick him up, but by the time that she arrived, he realized that he had just forgotten what his bike looked like, and it hadn't been stolen after all. A week later, his bike was actually stolen. He has a bike lock, he just didn't think it was necessary. His biological dad bought him a new bike to replace the stolen one. He's blown out the rear wheel 3 times, broken the seat twice, the chain twice, and completely smashed the rear wheel rim, just since the middle of May. And this was not this year, by the way. Since his second bike is now in shambles, he asked Bob and Anne if he could borrow their bikes. Bob said, "Hell no!" Anne said sure. Kevin managed to snap the rear axle and somehow broke the rear cassette. I gotta say, I'm almost envious of Kevin as his life is never dull. All I can do is enjoy his Kevinness by proxy and thank my lucky stars that he's not my kid. He borrowed magnets from half a dozen coral frag racks we sell, and promptly forgot where he left them. They're useless without the magnets. We had to order more. He found one of Bob's power drills and drilled a bunch of holes in a support beam for the porch. He dumped an entire 12-ounce can of fish food into one of the tanks. This was at the end of the day, and we didn't notice until the next morning. The entire shop smelled like roadkill. He's not allowed in the store anymore. He got a job as a dishwasher at a nearby restaurant and was told not to come back after a week because he had broken so many dishes. He shot himself in the leg with a pellet rifle because he wanted to know what it felt like to get shot. Because that's what thugs do. He was fine. He broke a plastic lawn chair and decided to burn it to destroy the evidence. He got found out when the fire pit began belching acrid black smoke everywhere. He went to a week-long youth group retreat a few hours away and forgot to pack any clean clothes. Anne had to drive all the way there with clothes for him. According to Anne, she had packed clothes for him, but he left them all behind because he didn't think he needed them. He tried to shotgun a can of soda. He managed to spray himself in the face. He tried again the next day with the same results. Bob bought a 150-gallon preformed above-ground pond to keep goldfish in during the warmer months. Kevin sat on the side and broke it. Kevin was bragging to his classmates that he had stolen drugs from his biological dad during a visit and would share them after school that day. A teacher overheard. He got in all sorts of trouble and had the drugs confiscated. They were fish oil capsules. In the last post, I mentioned how he had been buying cheap cell phones and unsuccessfully hiding them, despite being grounded from technology for failing all of his classes. His parents finally broke down and bought him a very basic flip phone that he could use for calling purposes only. He sold it at a pawn shop. He absolutely refuses to brush his teeth. His parents bought him an electric toothbrush, thinking that he might like it better than a manual one. He lost it. He got banned from the local comic book shop for spilling Mountain Dew everywhere. He decided he was going to cook a pork chop on the stove. He forgot about it and nearly caught the house on fire. Bob had cooked the pork chops the night before, and apparently, Kevin thought that once the meat gets cold, it somehow reverts to being raw and needs cooking again. Lately, he's been reading all kinds of survival books. He claims he wants to spend a year roughing it in the Canadian wilderness. I'm fairly certain he couldn't even find Canada on a map. He's absolutely convinced that standing in front of a microwave while it's running will sterilize you. He's gone as far as to retreat to the next room while he's nuking his food. His parents bought a truck a few states away, and they decided to take a long weekend to go pick it up, leaving myself and Matt, a coworker, to handle the store in that time. No problem, right? Except that they left Kevin at home as well, with a rather long list of explicitly articulated do's and do nots that he was expected to follow. They would have had better luck convincing a whale to spontaneously evolve into an elephant. He tried to use his parental reprieve to do everything he wanted without consequences. He tried to get into the store's cash drawer. I had the key with me at all times, and he even told me that Bob was okay with him taking cash out of the drawer once in a while. He isn't, obviously. He had a fire roaring in the grill, a shop vac blowing air into the coals, and he was trying to melt a metal rod in the heat while using winter gloves to insulate himself. He claimed that he was blacksmithing again. I promptly shut it down before he caught the house or himself on fire. I went to the store's garage to look for something. Kevin was there and loudly announced, "I'm not doing anything." I hadn't asked. I still have no idea what he was up to. Kevin announced to Matt and I that he was having friends over that night to smoke weed, take pills, and whatnot. I said, not a chance. I called Bob. He said, abso-freaking-lutely not. I told Kevin, and he said, my parents don't have to know. He tried to bribe me with a few grams of weed. I turned him down. Matt stayed the night at the house, more to keep an eye on Kevin than anything else. Kevin invited his friends over anyway. They filled the house with weed smoke and threatened Matt when he confronted them. Matt called me, then called Bob. Bob called the next-door neighbor who came over and stormed into Kevin's room, scaring the crap out of Kevin and his buddies. He then tried to bribe Matt with a few grams of weed as well. Matt also turned him down. Kevin and his buddies then tried to hide in the garage after the neighbor left. Matt found them when one of them knocked over a small aquarium and broke it, and they ran out through the back door. Bob and Ann skipped half of the plans they had and came home early. Needless to say, Kevin is in a world of trouble. Edit. August 21st, 2019. A quick update on his shenanigans over the last couple of weeks. He got a job at Dairy Queen and got fired after a week for not maintaining a professional demeanor. That's retail speak for he can't keep his mouth shut around customers. His bike got stolen. Again. He failed to lock it up while at work. Again. He's now on bike number 3 this year, and he's already damaged the rear rim twice and bent part of the frame. I still have no idea how one person can be so hard on a bike. He sliced a finger open because he tried to touch the non-serrated side of a bandsaw blade while it was running. His reasoning was that he didn't think it would hurt because that side of the blade isn't sharp. Edit 3, November 20th, 2019. Kevin is still Kevining it up. Here are the highlights since the last update. He's working at Taco Bell and got written up because he was purposely making orders wrong. He was leaving off the tomatoes because he didn't like tomatoes and didn't think anyone else liked them either. He lost his cell phone. According to Bob, this is the 13th. Yes, 13th phone Kevin has lost this year. Kevin got busted for trying to buy cigarettes at a convenience store. He's 2 years too young to buy them legally. The manager of the store knows Bob and Ann, so he called them to let them know. Kevin got in trouble. He's tried to buy cigarettes from the same store 2 more times since then, with similar results. Autumn hit us like Brannigan's Law, and the leaves fell at once. Kevin was supposed to mow them into the lawn, but he put it off for a week, and an early snowstorm dumped 16 inches on us. It soon melted, the leaves remained and were now soaked, and Kevin was told that he had to rake them now, rather than mow them. He tried to mow them anyway and clogged the mower, then tried to hide the mower and told Bob he couldn't find the rake. Speaking of mowers, earlier in the year when he was supposed to mow the yard, he decided he'd rather not. Bob and I watched him open a bottle of water, pour it into the mower's gas tank, then tried to start it up. After a minute of trying and failing to start the thing, he came in and told Bob that, "Oh darn, the mower can't start. Guess I can't mow today after all." Bob wasn't amused. Edit 4, February 5th, 2020. Last update here before this post gets archived. Kevin is currently taking driver's ed, one of those do-at-home internet classes. He's required to have so many hours of class time, and he's discovered that if he starts the lesson and lets it play while he does anything else, it counts as class time. Shockingly, he's failed the test at the end thrice now. Anne planned to take him to get his permit this week, and after he got a whopping 12% on his final test, she decided that it may not have been the best idea. He announced to me that he's been learning all about our government, and once he turns 18, he wants to run for an office. May the gods have mercy on our souls. Okay, first off, the chair thing where he broke the chair. Me and my little cousin were trying to do parkour in my backyard a few years ago. And we were starting off with jumping over these plastic chairs that you get outside for 4th of July or something. I cleared the jump. Obviously, they're only 3 feet high. And then my cousin, he botched the jump. And he was a little chubby back then. So he rolled into the chair and it just absolutely collapsed and shattered under his weight. And this kid almost got impaled by a chair leg. And I was recording the entire time and I got it in slow-mo too. It was incredible. It was so funny, but my dad got really mad, said, "You could have died." But anyway, this kid, man, he needs some help. It's so weird thinking about an 18-year-old running for office. Think back to when you were 18. Oh boy. But hey, I know it's not likely, but he might use the 2 years he has to grow and mature and try to be someone worth being in office, right? It's a possibility. I mean, everyone does stupid stuff when you're 16. I mean, not to this degree, but try to stay positive. This story's called I Fired Kevin After 1 Day of Amazing Stupidity. Originally posted on r/askreddit, and someone suggested I post it here. Probably one of the stupidest people I've ever met. He was a 26-year-old male and turned up an hour and a half late the first day. He was brought in by his mom, which I thought was kinda odd for a grown man. I let that slide. But then things just got worse. It was a small roadside cafe eatery. So I thought I'd get him started on small duties to ease him into the way of the place. I asked him to put new paper in the toilets. A minute or so later, I hear him yelling, "OP, it won't fit on the toilet roll holder." I'm like, what? That's a pretty simple thing. He calls out again, so I tell him to bring it to me so I can show him. He's carrying a roll of paper towel. It's almost 3 times the length of the toilet paper holder. "Kevin," I say, "that is paper towel." "No, it's not." "Yes, it is. Have you ever seen toilet paper that big in your life?" No? Right. Furthermore, and probably more perplexing, can you not see that this massive roll couldn't possibly fit on this small bar? "Yeah, I thought that was odd." Oh boy. Well, the day goes on, and after the kitchen is pretty much closed except for pre-cooked baked goods, I get him to give a general clean and ask to make sure he wipes down all the benches. I leave him to it as I assume he's doing fine. Kerong! One of the other staff comes and says, "We've run out of toilet paper." And I'm like, what? That's not possible. Sure enough, all the packs are torn open and empty except for the rolls on the holders. At this stage, I realize there can only be one culprit and call Kevin over. Did you do something with the toilet paper?
What the fez with this guy in toilet paper? Yes, I use it to wipe down the benches in the kitchen.
You used 8 rolls of toilet paper to wipe down the benches in the kitchen? Why are you using toilet paper to wipe down benches?
I don't like using the dishcloth.
Who taught you to wipe down benches with toilet paper? Have you seen anyone wipe down benches with toilet paper?
The cloth was dirty and I didn't want to clean it out.
By this stage, I'm thinking, day's nearly over, just let it go and I'm sure it'll work out fine. Yeah, you know what's coming. Kevin strikes again, and this time, it's beyond moronic. So I've got him on serving customers pastries and the like because all you have to do is take out the glass bay, put it on a plate, and give it to them. He doesn't even have to ring it up, just pop on the plate and give. Well, one of the customers orders 3 scones with jam and cream. He's behind the counter doing his thing, and I have a little peek and see, yes, he's cut them in half and managed to put jam and cream on them. About a minute later, the customer brings the scones back up to the counter. There's something really hard in these scones. I bit down and it was like crunching on a rock or something. Of course, I'm puzzled. Oh, I'm really sorry about that. When Kevin cuts in.
It's probably just the seeds and the jam.
Now, there's something about the way he says this that makes my alarm bells ring. Show me what you put on those scones. And I start marching towards the prep bench. Sitting on the bench is the bowl of whipped cream, and next to it, in a plastic bag, is a broken glass jar which contains the jam. That mother fat cur is feeding the customer broken glass.
I didn't think it would be a big deal.
Are you fat king insane? I grabbed the plate of mostly uneaten glass-infused scones. How is anyone supposed to eat this? To my utter amazement, he proceeds to eat them in front of me, all the while crunching on glass and flinching every time he does. I'm paralyzed, dumbfounded. When he finishes eating them, he says,
"Do you think I should go to the hospital?"
"You're fired." Okay, so I'm having some internal conflict with how he handled the situation. Was this Kevin a marvel of human stupidity? Yes. However, he was determined. I mean, this guy ate broken glass to prove a point. Do you know what kind of power you'd have if you could control that? People like him only exist like once every lifetime, okay? And whenever he does exist in his prime, people dominate countries, okay? He's like the avatar of unrelenting stupidity and is a source of great power. Instead of having access to the wisdom of his thousands of previous incarnations, he simply taps into their reptile brains and accesses their indomitable ignorance. Anyways, my point is, he's gonna do great things someday. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.